Hey everybody, it's me, Stacey, licensed designer for Sizzix, Jacquard, Couture Creations, and brand ambassador for Royal Talons. Hello, welcome to In the Studio with Stacey, a year-long extensive class program featuring Royal Talons and some of your most favorite manufacturers. This is where we take fine art and paper crafting and we mesh them together so that, well, if there was a line between them, there isn't anymore. If you're joining me during the premiere of today's class, which is Tuesdays, 6 p.m. sunny California time, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, you will see a live chat going on over there if you're on a desktop or a laptop. If you don't see a live chat there, look below. It may be below you. Come say hello, hello. In the studio with Stacey, me, I'm Stacey, is always on Tuesday, 6 p.m. sunny California time, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, unless something happens like last week. We are in Southern California, and as many of you know, there was extreme wind events here in Southern California. We had devastating wildfires, and I am right in Canyon Country, California, which is in the heart of Santa Clarita, which is in the heart of the extreme wind events. I'm actually in the store taping this early. Well, early, it's like 11 o'clock at night. Shh. I'm taping this early because another extreme wind event is coming. And I know that I am going to lose power to my shop and my home. We had power on and off and on and off and on and off for 2 weeks. My store was closed for almost 2 weeks. We were out of our house for several days, almost a week, I think. And so I wanted to tape today's class and get it loaded just in case they turn our power off again. Now, this is a year-long class, and it's a year-long event where it's about the teaching. That's the most important thing. Taking product from the fine art world and showing you just how amazing it is. How it really can elevate your creativity and how to build confidence in the products you're using. So, in the fine art world, they don't discontinue products, they don't do a lot of innovation, but they also don't get rid of anything. In the paper crafting world, our life is like bing, bang, boom. Bing, bang, boom. A manufacturer will put a collection together, they'll sell it, and when it's gone, and you never see it again. That's paper crafting world. Fine art, slow their roll. They believe in a standard of quality. They believe in continuity. They believe in sustainability. They have to. The products being made by Royal Talons are being made for fine artists who are commissioned to do work, who are in museums, who are teaching classes, who are sharing their gifts through their teachings. But they are fine artists, and so they need to know that standard of quality is going to be there today and tomorrow and 5 years ago. If you are an artist, a fine artist, and you are using a color paint, and then you put your project away, whatever you're working on, you put that away, and you come back to it 5 years later, because sometimes it takes that much time to get the inspiration back for a project. And you need to go buy a new tube of paint. That paint better be the exact color blue that you were using when you started. It is that standard of quality that the fine art manufacturers must achieve. It's not, well, we'll try to achieve it. It's that they must achieve it because fine artists depend on it. They require it, they expect it, they count on it, and it is what it is. It's the way it's done. So while they don't roll out new products all the time, they also don't discontinue products, and they keep that standard of product the same. There are paints that were manufactured 80 years ago that are the exact same color today. I want to show you how to take some of that product and add it to your creativity, incorporate it into what you do, and I want you to have the confidence to do it, which is why this is a year-long program. Every month we're taking one product from Royal Talents, one product, and for that entire month we are focusing on that product. January we are working with Ecoline pens, Ecoline watercolor markers. February, we move on to something else. But for the entire month of February, I show you technique after technique after technique so that confidence builds inside of you, even if some of the techniques are things you might not necessarily do. You know you can. That's important. That's confidence to know you could if you wanted to. So January, Ecoline. Now, Ecoline, eco does not stand for economy. These are a beautiful dye-based watercolor marker. They have a nib from Japan. They are manufactured outside of Amsterdam in Apeldoorn. Royal Talents has been around since 1899. They were designated royal by the Queen. I mean, this is a pretty substantial company where artists depend on their quality. There is no second. There is no less than. It must be every single time. So I started with Ecoline markers, and we're going to play with those today. We did last week. We were stamping with them. I took my stamp sets from Sizzix, and we were stamping with them and then misting and stamping again with water and misting and stamping again. Today, I'm going to be playing with stencils. We're going to turn it upside down and play with stencils. And you're like, stencils? Yes, wait till you see. But I think it's important to talk a little bit about the marker and about the paper I'm using before we get started. First off, the marker is a dye-based watercolor marker. Now, dye-based inks need a binder to them. They need a binder mixed in to make everything hold together. And that binder for Ecoline pens is gum arabic. Now, gum arabic has been around since the days of King Tut. Seriously, you can go all the way back and there's reference to gum arabic in Egyptian days, truly. So it is 100% gum arabic as the binder and absolutely no synthetics, none. The nibs are from Japan. Oh, swoon, are they beautiful. The colors are transparent and the contrast of colors is amazing. The high contrast of colors is amazing. You can do the most beautiful gradations of color. You can do wet on wet. You do not have to wait. They are immediately reworkable. They clean up like a dream because they're water soluble. No odor to them at all. They are truly a beautiful marker, and I don't know why, well, I do know why I didn't know about them, because I heard Ecoline and I thought economy. And so I said, oh, no, we don't do economy here. No, we like the finer things. We like to bring quality to you. And then I learned that I was wrong. Mark the calendar, I was wrong. So once I started doing my classes and learning, because I have to take classes to be a brand ambassador for Royal Talents, and learning about the different products, it just, my whole is what happened. It was like, oh my goodness, there is so much more out there. And yet, the pricing on most of it's pretty comparable to what we pay in the paper crafting world, and yet the quality is so much better. So I'm going to bring these to you. I started with the darks and the pastels in my first class when I was stamping, and those are currently on sale, absolutely. We're adding this week the fashion colors and the botanical colors, 2 more 10 packs. I have got paper for you. So the paper we are using is mixed media paper from Van Gogh. Now, Mixed media paper, when we talk about paper sizing in the fine art world, it is not about the size of the paper that we're working with. In paper crafting, paper sizing is like, oh, are you doing an A2 card? Oh, are you doing a 5x7 card? Oh, what's A, are you doing something? Do you have a piece of A4? It's completely different. When you're talking about fine art and sizing is what determines the how fast the absorption rate is for the paper. The more sizing in the paper, the slower the absorption rate, the more time you have to play with the water. If you put water or ink on paper that has 0 sizing, it's like sucks right in. But if you have a paper that has sizing either built into the pulp, mixed into the pulp, or is treated with it over the top, the water sits and then slowly starts to absorb in, giving you time to paint and to play and to just experience. Really important. The better quality papers, the more sizing it has in it. Then these are watercolor markers. They're dye-based watercolor markers. So do I use watercolor paper? Because that would make most sense, right? But they're markers. Did you know that there's paper for markers? Marker paper. I had no idea. 20 years in this business, no clue that there is paper specifically for markers. And that paper allows the marker to just glide over so smooth, so beautiful. But it's not watercolor paper, and these are watercolor markers, but they're markers. So should I use watercolor paper? After trying out a jillion different papers, I settled on the Van Gogh mixed media paper. It's kind of a hybrid between a marker paper and a watercolor paper. The sizing on it is enough, beautiful enough that you'll be able to see me move the ink without any problem. But it's so smooth that the marker just glides along the top. Now it comes in 2 sizes. I'm going to be using the smaller size, and this is about an A5 size. So about, is it 8.5, 5.5 by 8.5. So it truly is about A5 size. The other size that we have for you is 9 by 12, and I'll show that to you a little bit later. But when we talk about sizing in fine art, we're not talking about the size of the paper we're using. We're talking about the absorption rate of the liquid on the paper. And that's super important because that will make the difference in the quality of your finished work. And when you start with better quality, you finish with better results. It just is the way it is. Now, in February, we're going to be using a totally different product, and chances are I'm going to have to change the paper because you want the right paper for the right medium, whether it be acrylic paints or watercolor markers or watercolor paints, or who knows what we're going to be using. Chances are I'm going to have to change the paper because I want that product to work beautifully. So when we're talking about sizing, again, it has to do with the absorption rate. And when we're talking about the markers, watercolor markers, dye-based, they have a binder. They are light to dark gradation beautifully. They are easy to clean. They have, I'll show you. We'll tilt on down. We're going to get started for today. And again, I'm working with stencils, but let me show you something I forgot to show you last week. Are you ready? Down we go. Oh, and let me put my glasses on. Oh, there you are. Okay, zoom on in. All right, so these are the 2 sets we're playing with today. Last week it was botanical and, it was darks and pastels. Today it is fashion and botanical. Botanic. These are the 2 10 packs that we're playing today. First things first, I want to let you know that if you get them and you see this red down here, it's not that the marker's leaked. That is how the packaging comes. This one has green going on. Don't think the marker's leaked. But what I didn't get to show you last week, and I have it here this week, is that the markers also come in a liquid watercolor. So this is a wide mouth liquid watercolor. This is actually gold. This is the only metallic that they have, and we're going to be using that maybe in the next week. Comes with a little, look at that, the little pipette there going on. It's a wide mouth. And the cool thing about this is that the Ecoline watercolor jars, the liquid watercolor, is the exact same as the markers. They're named the same, they're numbered the same. So if you have a liquid watercolor in a jar and you have the marker, you really have two amazing worlds together. And later on in the year, we're going to come back. I'm going to play with the gold, probably, like I said, next week. But later on in the year, we're going to come back and play with the liquid watercolors, just with the liquid watercolors, and let's see what we can do with those. So I didn't get to show that to you last week, and I wanted to do that. Remember that they're fast drying, immediate reworking, and that they have this super high color contrast. All colors are transparent. Beautiful. So today I'm going to be going with the fashion and the botanic colors. And those are the colors we're going to be playing with. I'm going to be working with stencils. We're going to be working with fine liners today. Where have these been my whole life? These are by Brunzell. You know Brunzell, we do their watercolor pencils and their colored pencils. Yum. I'm going to be using my Van Gogh mixed media paper and stencils from my Sizzix collection. So I think we're just going to get started. I want to keep these kind of close so I can pull my colors that I love. And I am going to pull out a piece of my paper. Now the paper is perforated. So if I tear it out, it does have a perforation so that I could separate. It's got a little perforation going all the way down. So I could pull this whole piece off. I'm just going to leave it for now because that's me. And I am going to bring over my stencil and stamp tool from Sizzix. I used this last week as a stamp tool. This week I need to use it for its stenciling capabilities. Oh, let's steady you out. So I'm not going to need to have the lid because I am using it for stenciling. I am going to need to keep my alignment tool. This is a stenciling alignment tool, and these holes correlate to the holes here. So they fit right in. And what that allows me to do is move my stencil when I add it to my alignment tool anywhere I want. If I'm doing a stencil that is continuous, I can just keep moving it down and down. It has no lip on any of the sides, so you can use any size paper you want. It comes with a sheet of sticky grid, which is what this is. In reality, it's like this fabulous Post-it note type of sticker that when you put your paper down, it stays, but then when you pull it up, it doesn't cause harm to your paper. Eventually, it will need to be replaced, and there are replacements. Sizzix does sell them. This is an A4 size platform, which gives you ample opportunity to work. And I'm going to grab my first stencil. So this is one of my Sizzix stencils. It does have a coordinating stamp to go with it, but today I'm not going to use it. I'm going to keep it super simple. We're going to start super simple. Now it has two holes at the top, and those two holes correlate to the two nibs on my alignment tool. There's two nibs right on my alignment tool. You may notice that there's also two nibs on the base platform for my tool. My stencil does not go in those two nibs at the top. Nope, these nibs are not the same size as the holes in my stencil. Those two nibs at the top are meant to be used to hold my alignment tool in place when I go to put it away. It's my little storage mechanism. Now, if you have stencils that do not have holes at the top, because only Sizzix put holes in there because they go perfectly with the alignment tool, please don't go and grab a hole punch. Sizzix sells converters, and they are an adhesive plastic piece that will attach to any stencil, and it puts the holes in it so that you can use any stencil with this tool. It's 10 converters to a pack. They're super inexpensive. I want to say they're under $6, maybe under $7 for 10, and they are reusable. So if you are working with a stencil that doesn't have holes in it, don't go and just grab your hole punch, because these nibs are a very specific size and they are a very specific shape. They're not just straight up and down. So get the converters. You put the converter right on the top. It will allow you to put your stencil in because it's going to have holes. And then when you're done using it, you can reuse it again and again. Now for me, I'm going to go ahead and put my paper down and put my stencil in. Sizzix always has their name at the top. They have the SKU number and the position of the stencil. This is a single layer stencil, so it says 1. Later, I have a 4 layering stencil, so it will say 1, 2, 3, or 4. And it's always there, and that tells you what is the front facing side of the stencil. That doesn't mean that you can't flip it around and use the back side, because you can. It's just that if you're doing a layering stencil, then you need to flip all of them to the back side. Now I'm going to put this in, and you kind of have to push down a little bit. They're a little bit bigger at the top, a little wider at the top, and then they get a little bit narrower as they go down, which is why you just can't go grab your hole punch. It's just not going to work. And I'm going to lay it flat. Now, the nice thing about this is that I can lift this up and look at what I've done, and then put it back down and continue, and lift it up and look at what I've done and put it back down and continue. I'm going to go real simple to start. So I'm going to grab some colors. I like this color. And I like this color. And maybe this color, and let's see what we do with these. So I've got 4 Ecoline pens between my two sets, and I'm going to go in and I'm just going to draw my circles. I won't do the whole page, but I'm going to go in and I'm going to draw my circles. And I'm not going to care if I'm exact. I'm using my stencil for the spacing between the circles. So I'm just going to go in and go zoop. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, let's do that. And then let's do the green. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then let's do the yellow. Now I'm not being very careful about this at all. I'm just trying to get my circles. And how about this blue? Let's see what this looks like. Ooh, that's a pretty color. And we'll come back and maybe do well, I definitely need a green here. Now that I can see, I need a green there, and maybe a yellow here. And I'm just drawing my circles. Maybe a green here. And maybe a blue here. There. I just drew some circles. That's it. Not too hard. They're not neat. They're not precise. They're not clean. I just drew them in. I can lift off my alignment tool. Now I'm not going to lift my paper off because if I decide to come back and put my alignment tool back down, I want it to align perfectly. In fact, I should do that one right there. See, and then you don't know where to stop because then you think you gotta do them all. All right, I'm stopping. That's as far down as I am going. All right, lift it off. Now I'm ready to create with this. I'm ready to see what we can do, and I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to be using my throwaway palette. Love this. You get 20 sheets, and you don't throw it away after every single use. You can use the same palette again and again and again, and it really is very, very handy. In fact, maybe I'm too close. Maybe I need, oh, wrong direction. Maybe I do need to be there. That way you can see. All right, I'm going to grab one of my watercolor brushes. These are Fusion brushes by Yasutomo. I'm going to add a little bit of water to my palette. And it's almost like a wax paper, but hardier, and it lasts longer. Now I've got my brush wet, and I can go in and I can start to just pull some of that color. Now as a stencil, it would be almost impossible to do each of your little circles a different color. At the same time, I don't want to draw my own circles because I want the spacing. The stencil gives me the spacing so that I can go in there and not worry that I'm going to just put circles on top of circles on top of circles. Now I'm going to touch every part of that marker with my water. Every part of that circle, I'm going to touch with my water. And I'm just going to let my water do the thing. Now I should go in, I should do all one color at the same time. So I'll do all my green first. And I'm just pulling that color. The minute I add the water to it, the Ecoline markers react. And because the mixed media paper has lovely sizing to it, it's allowing me to go in. And I'm not being careful, I'm just doing my thing. All I want to do is touch every part of that marker with the water. That way it doesn't look like it was a marker to begin with. It looks like you hand painted all these circles. Nobody needs to know that you had a cheat sheet. I just go in and I want to touch every part of that circle with the water, edge to edge. And the more water I use, the more diffused the color will be when it dries. The less water I use, the less diffused. Oh, I got a little bit of blue in there. And I'm just going to go in and finish this one up. All right, green are done. Now, if I was using the stencil, I would have to mask off to get all these different colors without blending them into each other. But by using the stencil as my template to draw my circles, easy peasy. And I'm going to go in there and I'm going to touch every part of that circle with my paintbrush. And I'm not looking for them to be perfect or exact. In fact, that stencil, the circles aren't perfect or exact. They are a little wonky and hand-drawn. And here I'm able to control what it is I'm doing. A little more water. Okay, so I've got 2 colors done. Doesn't look like what I started with, does it? Doesn't matter that my circles are kind of wonky. The minute I add that water, I make my color. I fill it in. Even if I go outside the line. Look at how easy the markers move. And they do, they become a paint. And yet you have the control of a pen on where you're going to put them. Couldn't do this with a stamp pad or even a re-inker. And I didn't want to hand draw my own circles because I know the spacing would be awful. Last one. Now, if I wanted to make any of them lighter, I just need to go in and add water. If I add water, it will lighten my color. So all I have to do is add water and let it sit, and that water is going to start to lighten my color. Up to me if I want to do that. Let's go into the darker one. Such a pretty blue. So I've got a lot of water in here, and I'm just grabbing the edges and pulling that color to the middle. Anybody can do this. You can see I'm not being overly careful. I just want to kind of touch every part of that circle and then move on. And once that water hits, the color dissolves into a paint. All right. Easy peasy. Oh, I forgot that one. Easy peasy. You're letting the ink do all the work for you. You're letting the ink do all the work. Now I need to let it dry, and I can take my palette, and you can see the water droplets on it, and I can just wipe them off and start again. Because this is paper that has a built-in sizing to it, I need to let it dry. The water, the liquid, the ink is absorbing into the paper on a slower scale. If it just sucked right down in, I wouldn't be able to move anything at all. Not at all. So let's give it a minute, because then I'm going to go over it with a fine liner. So fine liners we have from Brunswick, and I put them here. We have the 6-pack of 5 liners, or fine liners. So that way you get the yellow, the red, the gray, the green, the blue, and the black. A fine liner is just that. It is super fine. And it allows you to draw detail. The Brunswick fine liners are also water reactive. And also will make a paint. That is why I need it to be dry. I want to make sure that my paint, what I've made into a paint, my dye-based Ecoline markers are pretty dry, and that's pretty good. All right, let me put these back where they belong so I can, those go there, and this one goes here. Because now I could take, there is a matching stamp, and I could take and stamp it, and stamp the image right on it. Or I can take my fine liner, and I can just do some circles. And I like wonky circles. I'm not trying to have it be exact. And I like to go 2 or 3 of them around. That hand-drawn, hand-finished kind of sketchy look. Now, I always stop and start at the same place. I don't do half a line and then come back. And I'm not being overly careful. I'm just drawing some circles around my circles. And I usually like 2 or 3 of them. And I like them to go outside the lines. I like them to be inside the circle. And I'm just drawing them in. So ultimately, I'm creating my own stamp by doing that. The stamp that goes with this has a pattern to it. And I just want it to be just some wonky circles. And the fine liner lets you do that. Bronzil is just like Ecoline. They're a high-end, beautifully made product. We've carried their colored pencils and their watercolor pencils for years. Okay, I've circled them all. Anything I want to add a few more to? I just go in there and add another circle. And I just draw. And you've got that sketchy hand-drawn look. Then I can take it and I can cut it to be what I want it to be. Now you can't do this with an ink pad. You can't go in there. And remember, I started with just drawing circles, just going in there with my markers. And it didn't matter if I drew my circle great or I didn't. I didn't care if I went zoop or zoop or zoop. I didn't even matter if I went over. I'm just, look at those are really badly drawn. Holy smokes, artichokes. But that's where having really great product comes into play. If this was not really great product, then yes, it would matter that I drew them kind of icky. But the minute I add in my water, doesn't matter that this one is like that. Makes no difference. I can draw, make it go zoop, and there we go. I've got a circle. I touch every part of it. And then I move on. And it just dissolves right on out. That's where the quality of product is that I'm talking to you about. Not every marker can do this to this level. They just can't. They just can't. And then when you're all done, look at how cute. And I hand drew those little circles around it. Looks like it was a stamp. I just hand drew them. So easy. So easy. All right, let's move on. So I'm going to continue with my stencils. This is the one I just used. And I'm going to move here. This is a stamp and stencil set. You get both the stamp and the stencil with this. I used the stamp last week. I'm going to use the stencil this week. Put my alignment tool back on. Grab a piece of my paper. And I specifically want the flower. So this is the stencil that goes with the stamp set so that you're able to stencil right on top of the stamp and have perfect coloring every time. But I don't want to use the stamp set. I just want to use the stencil because I want it to look like a hand-drawn type of image. So let's take my from my botanic set, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not going to be exact. I'm just going to come in here and kind of go around my outline and then maybe I come back with a little bit of a darker. And then maybe I come back with a green. And I'm just kind of coloring in where the stem is. And as you can see, I am not being anywhere near careful. And I think we give that a little bit of a try. What do you think? Lift up my... Ooh, I got a hot mess going on. Hot mess. Until I add my water. So I've got my little palette. Pick up my water. And come in and start mixing. And again, I'm going to touch every part of my flower. With my water brush, my watercolor brush. Every part of it. And I'm going to do all my purple and lavender first. And then I'll come in and do my green. Now I scribbled. I mean, you saw me scribble. I was not careful in how I put my marker through my stencil because I knew I would have the opportunity to come in and play with the color. And I really wanted to have kind of a hand watercolored look to it. And if I need to, I can come in and wet on wet. I can go in and add more and it dissolves right away. Wet on wet. Okay, I think I'm going to be good for now. Clean my brush. Oh, I got to do the little ones. Look at how easy it moves. All right, so this is where I'm at. Now I can come in. Oh, I should have added a leaf. Oh, I should have added a leaf. I have a leaf on here. Think I can still get it? Draw that down a little bit. And just a little bit of a leaf. Zoop. Just using it as my template. Up. And then we'll add maybe a little bit of light green in here. And maybe a little bit of green. All right, let's see what we get. Let's see what we get from it. And just blend them together. So it looks like you hand painted. That's what I'm going for, that kind of hand painted watercolor look. Definitely doesn't look like it's been stenciled. Stencil would give you a beautiful, nice, crisp, clean lines. And I'm just touching everywhere with the green. With some water. And then I think I'm going to come back in with a little bit of yellow. So maybe a little bit of yellow. Because I can do that. And I can come in here and play. Could not do this with anything but a marker. And not all markers are created equal. And maybe a little here. To where it's almost a dry brush. That's what I keep doing. I keep taking the water off my brush to where it's almost a dry brush. Gosh, that's pretty. Okay. I think I'm going to give it a second to dry. I got a little bit of green right there. Baby wipe, and up it comes. And I got a little bit of green outside here. Baby wipe, and up it comes. And I'm just coloring. Now I need to give it a second to dry because I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go over it with a fine liner. So I just don't want it to be wet, wet. I don't want there to be like a pool of water anywhere. Because then I can take my fine liner and kind of go outside. Almost make it look like we've stamped the image. Well, we actually want it to look like you hand drew it. And I'm just following along, and I am not being careful at all. I want that sketchy look to it. Think long, think wrong. Just go and do. And I start to just get a beautiful finished image. Now I can't go back with water because my fine liner will move with water. But I just wanted something soft and sweet and elegant. It doesn't look like it was stenciled. But it does look like it was hand painted. The markers are very cool. Let's do one more. And this time I'm going to use my Franz stencil, which is a 4-layer stencil from Sizzix. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 layers will give you this result. I'm going to just use layer 1 and layer 2. That's all I'm going to use is layer 1 and layer 2. And let's grab another piece of paper. And I don't need my pink. I do need my greens. And maybe a little bit of a blue. We'll see. Time will tell. But let's grab a piece of paper. And now we're using 2 stencils. So the first one I did, I used 1 stencil and didn't blend the colors at all. Second one I did, I used 1 stencil but multiple colors meshing into each other. And then the last one, let's use stencil number 1. And grab my marker, and again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm literally using it to draw in the design. Close. I'm not being overly careful. I'm just trying to get the leaves where the leaves go, where the stem is. When I stencil this and I use my blending brushes and my stamp pads, you get a very, very crisp look. This I want to be a little less crisp. I want it to look like have somebody think that I hand painted it because, well, it kind of in reality I did. Okay, so 1 done. Not Wahoo Kachoo yet. Now let's put stencil number 2. And I'm going to go in and do the same. hand draw kind of where those leaves go. Just get the ink in there. Not caring if it's perfect at all, actually. I'm just trying to get kind of the outline of what I need. And then a little bit of this. And we might even come in with a little bit of yellow and a little bit of blue. All right, that is about my drawing skill level. But then I start adding my water. And I don't think I'm gonna put my stencil back on. So if I wanted to, I could turn it. As long as I know I'm not gonna put my stencil back on. And then I go in. And I touch every area of that paint, well, of that marker, and make it into a paint. And I just blend them together, and I let the water and the ink do the work. Take stencils that you own and make them more than what they started as. And touch every area with water. And then you can come in and start adding into your colors. So I've still got, it's still pretty wet, but I can come in and start adding in on my colors. And just start adding in. before you know it, you've created your own art. That's still pretty wet. And I'm just painting away, letting the ink, the marker, the water, the stencil do all the work for me. Wet on wet. Any place I need a little bit more, I add a little bit more. And my paper is holding the water without any problem. Okay, I think I'm gonna let it dry for just a minute. Now it doesn't look anything like what we started with, and when we're finished it won't look anything like that either. And I just took 2 stencils, and instead of using it like a stencil like I normally would, I went in there and I just outlined, just so I can see where everything kind of needs to be. And then I took it from there. I can manipulate it a little bit if I want to draw a little extra little point to my leaf. I can go in there and draw that myself. I just grab a little bit of the paint and I can draw my little leaves a little bit more detailed if I want. And then I let it dry enough so that I can fine line around it. So wipe off my palette. This is still my first one. I don't need to throw this away. I can use this again and again, and you get 20 of them. Really, really great value. Now I don't know if it's dry enough. Ooh. You know what? How about I show you the colors? How about I show you the colors while this dries for a minute of the markers. So we have the 2 packs that we're doing this week. We have Fashion. Nope. We have Fashion. And we have Botanic. You want to hear that snap. That's an important thing. So we have done the swatch cards. So for fashion, this is a single color, a single gray. This is a duo. So we went gray. This is cool gray. We went cool gray down once, and then we came back and did a second. So two coats of cool gray, one coat of cool gray. This is a gradation. This is, gosh, it's so light. It's a wash and then an actual stamped image. So these are the sets that are in the fashion. Look at the pink beige. I love this color. And here we have what they call black. And you can see the duo gets you a pure black, but then look at the gradation. And then we have reddish brown. Again, a single color, 2 layers of it. A gradation in color, a wash, and a full color stamp. Then we have ultramarine deep, swoon. So these are the fashion 10-pack. Then we have turquoise blue, swoon. Then we have red violet, swoon. They're all so beautiful. Scarlet and chartreuse. That doesn't look like chartreuse to me, but okay. Scarlet and chartreuse. So all of your fashion colors are just yummy. There's just a little bit of everything in here. Now the question has been, are we going to carry them open stock? I think at some point we will do them open stock so you're able to replace the colors. Although if you have the liquid, I have thoughts on that. So we've got the fashion colors. And then we've got the botanical. So a plain sepia, sepia light, spring green, deep yellow, pastel green, pastel violet, bronze green, forest green, fir green, and carmine. So again, beautiful colors. Just beautiful in your botanical. And those are the colors that make up that set. All right, let's see if it has. Oh, I think it's good. Okay, fine liner. Oh, right here. And I usually do one kind of on the outside, and then on the inside, and then one on the inside, and on the outside. And I just want it to look hand sketched. And just kind of trace it out.
and I'm not overly careful. Think long, think wrong. Just let it go. Think long, think wrong. Anywhere you need a little extra line or two, just draw it in. I love the look of them. I think they're so pretty. And it doesn't look like you took a stencil and did it. This is not stenciling. This is taking stencils to the next level and using markers that are so forgiving. So forgiving. I did this one a little earlier, and I took a little bit of blue wash around it. I just did the single. Here I did the double. Single, double. We did this one, but I also did this one. Same, different colors, but same. And I did this one, but I also did this one. And then what you make of them is up to you. So Ecoline dye-based watercolor markers. Quality is stunning. The different techniques you can do with them are endless. So far we have stamped, we've used them on stamps, And now we have used them unconventionally on stencils. But to be able to do some of this, you need the marker. I want the stencil to give me the rough outline, but then I want the marker to make magic happen. You have options and options and options and then some options. So we're adding into the In the Studio with Stacey event sale, we're adding in the Bronzil fine liners. We are adding in the fashion set and the botanical set. We already have the darks and the pastels in there. We are adding in the stencil. We already have this set in here, which is a stamp and stencil combination. We used this one last week, so it stays in there. Stamp and stencil. I've got both of the sizes of paper for you. That stays in there. So this is 9 by 12. And this is 5.5 by 8.5. We are adding in the palette. I don't think it was in there. I think we were sold out. We're adding in the palette. So tons of goodies for you. And if Scrapbooking Made Simple, if we're not the place you want to shop, this is available. If you have a local art store, go visit your local art store. Introduce yourself. Say, do you have Royal Talents products? Do you have Ecoline markers? See what they've got. Say hello. Make a new friend. They would be so excited to meet you. We've just got such goodies for you and an entirely different way of using a stencil. We didn't blend it all. But we made some pretty things. All right, you guys. So this is in the, oh, and then wait a minute, I can't finish. We have to seal it. We've got to seal them with our Dorland's wax. Dorland's wax. It's like I will never be without it again. It is a wax product. It doesn't feel waxy, but when you are done, you rub it right over the top of your finished project. I can't get it out of, oh, there we go. Right over your finished project, and it will seal it. Didn't know anything about Dorland's wax either. It dries completely clear. Doesn't leave a waxy buildup. But it will waterproof your project. So when you are done, you take a little bit of Dorland's wax. Give a good coat all over. Make sure you rub it all over. And then, gosh, I wonder if it would be easier. Maybe you could use, oh, Oh, well, that's a little easier. Okay, we could use a blending tool. And the thing about it is once it's set, let's hope it's set, water just beads right up on it. Now, if this was, do I have a piece of it? If this was here, no Dorland's wax, wipe it right off. Didn't make a mess. No Dorland's wax. Oh yeah, not the same. So if you do anything with watercolor, anything that you need to seal, this is how you want to do it. And it doesn't dry waxy. Once it's dry, it's amazing. All right, you guys, that's it for today. So I'm going to tilt on up and I'm going to say, okay, class number 2 using Ecoline markers with stencils in a way that is totally unconventional. Not what we generally do with stencils, but why do we have to do what we always do? Why can't we do something we haven't done? Let's not do what we always did. Let's try something new. And I think the results are beautiful. And it does look hand painted, hand drawn. And that's the goal. Doesn't look like you used a stencil, but you did. All right, so I am Stacey, and I am a licensed designer for Sizzix and Jacquard and Couture Creations, and I am a brand ambassador for Royal Talons, bringing you Ecoline watercolor dye-based markers. Mwah! They're beautiful. Again, if you have a local independent art store, please go visit them. Go say hello. And I will be back next week with another class using Ecoline markers in another way. And I think we might pull in some graphics products. I have a specialty paper. It's not paper. I don't know how to describe what it is, but I think that's what we're going to play with next week. So, fingers crossed we keep our power on. Fingers crossed I get this loaded and that next week we're all good to go. So until then, I will see you on Thursday. Thursday is our next event, which is a New For You event. And gosh, I hope you tune in 6 p.m. sunny California time, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. And I'm trying to think of, I think I have Katie Sue for you, for New For You. I think it's Katie Sue. So until then, I'm Stacey. Thanks for being here. Thanks for live chatting. I will see you all next time in the studio with Stacey. Bye, everybody.